Millions of people wake up every morning feeling trapped in a financial loop. You work your 40 hours, wait 2 weeks for the deposit to hit, pay the bills, and realize you're right back where you started, just running faster on the exact same wheel. The glitch in this system is simple math. When you rely solely on a standard wage, you are making a strict one-to-one trade of your time for their money. This chart illustrates the trap. Time stretches on indefinitely along the bottom axis, but notice the income line. Because there are only so many hours, your earning potential hits a hard limit. Unless your capabilities expand, that ceiling isn't going to budge. Escaping this cycle means letting go of a very specific illusion, the idea that your very next paycheck is suddenly going to be the one that changes your life. The reality is much more empowering. You are not one paycheck away from a different life. You are exactly one skill away. This principle is the cornerstone philosophy of AbangABu, a financial strategist known as the wealth engineer. He identified that the traditional path to financial freedom often points people in the entirely wrong direction. He argues that breaking out of the middle class requires you to stop trying to trade more time and start directing all your energy into expanding your own capacity. Open any personal finance book, and the advice usually sounds the same. You need to acquire external assets, build a stock portfolio, buy rental properties, or launch a startup. But those vehicles have a massive barrier to entry. They demand significant upfront capital to purchase and a deep understanding of market mechanics to actually generate a return without losing your shirt. Before you can successfully manage any of those complex external vehicles, you have to develop what we can call a Tier 0 asset. It is the mandatory foundation that makes all other investments possible. Taking out a loan to buy property or day trade stocks without first building that Tier 0 foundation is a mathematical equation for financial collapse. That Tier 0 asset is you. Before real estate or shares, the individual human mind is the primary engine of all economic generation. To understand how this works mechanically, we can break your economic output down into 4 distinct pillars of personal value, starting with this base layer, you. Building on that base are the first 2 pillars, what you know and what you can actually do. This represents your raw, internal inventory of capabilities. The third pillar is the problems you can solve. This is where you take that internal knowledge and apply it tactically to clear friction points in the real world. And that leads to the final structural support, the value you bring to others. In any marketplace, this is the inescapable metric that determines what your time is actually worth. This brings us to a key rule in AbangABu's philosophy. Employers don't simply grant income out of generosity. Income is essentially a shadow. Mathematically, it is forced to follow the value you create. If you want to increase the external reward of your paycheck, the only reliable mechanism is to increase the caliber of your internal assets. So how do you actually upgrade those internal assets? You execute what we'll call the 90-day value protocol. The first step requires strict discipline. You must select exactly one highly useful skill to develop. Splitting your focus across 5 different hobbies guarantees you won't become profitable in any of them. This needs to be a high-leverage capability, something like writing complex code, crafting persuasive sales copy, or executing high-end video editing. Look at this execution loop. First, learn the underlying mechanics, then relentlessly practice to build momentum. But practice alone won't generate a return. The critical step is deployment, directing that polished capability outward to help someone else. Being a great coder in an empty room has 0 economic utility. Your skill only becomes a financial asset the moment it successfully solves a specific problem for another person or business. When you consistently solve problems, you enter the yield phase. The marketplace recognizes the friction you're removing and begins to organically compensate you for it. You transition out of the passive, anxious state of hoping the next deposit is enough to cover rent and into the active position of an in-demand generator of value. Because ultimately, allowing income to follow the value you create is the only permanent strategy. Build your value, build your wealth.